Welcome to Dock Talk. We are actually not on a dock. We are on a Malibu, actually my favorite Malibu. It's a 2025 23 LSV from Texas Malibu. This is the maiden voyage in my new boat. So you see this smile? It's real big. But we're here to talk about the benefits of partnering with a lakefront real estate professional.
I mean, number one thing is off-market listings. I mean, they say, you know, rumors travel fast. Off-market listings go so fast, but so many people don't know about them, you know? And so it's being on the water, it's knowing your area, knowing your lakes, knowing your rivers, and getting those in front of the right buyers. You know, there's so many times where, you know, I'll bring a product up to somebody and they're like, how'd you find out about that? I'm like, well, it's off market right now. Here's a great opportunity, you know?
Why would you take a listing off market?
I mean, one of the reasons to take off market currently is like, if you're trying to wait for the spring. That's a very popular reason right now. There's several people that like, hey, we'll just take our house off during the winter. We're going to enjoy it one last time. And then in the spring, we're going to go ahead and relist. And so in that time, they still want it sold if possible, but they just don't want it listed on the MLS. And so that's one of the things that will actually help, you know, we'll know about.
And every seller has a different story. It might be a seller that says, hey, look, I don't want a for sale sign in my yard. And if you find a buyer that's willing to pay X, bring them to me. Being immersed in the markets that we are in, you know, we know a lot of these sellers. We know a lot of the agents that know these sellers. We know, you know, one of the access we call off market, but sometimes it's hidden listings. You know,
Happens a lot.
we were talking about that, you know, listing the other day that was listed on the Colorado River when it was technically on LBJ.
Yep.
So anybody searching for LBJ is not going to find that. It's not off market. It's just invisible to anybody that's actually looking for something on LBJ.
Right. I would say probably 20 to 25% of the listings I sell, I only deal with sellers, but 20 to 25 of them, I sell them off market before they even hit the market. And it's typically, you know, there's a few agents that I have a relationship with that I will let them know this one's coming if you want to go see it. And it turns out to be a benefit for both. The buyer, the county will not find out what you paid for that. The buyer paid for the house. And for the seller, I know that that's a benefit to the buyer about the taxes, so we get full price. So it's a benefit to both parties to sell it off market before it hits the MLS.
And it's less stress too.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's a much faster transaction.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah. Next, I would say is, you know, understanding non-compliant spaces. You know, it's so sad, and we see it all the time. You know, we represent a client, and we tell them, hey, look, don't go look at that house because the whole thing is non-compliant. It's not supposed to be there, which means the county could come knock on the door with the power of FEMA and say, hey, this house is non-compliant. It has to be torn down. Or there was one on Lake Placid that it was marketed as a 1,600 square foot house. 800 upstairs, 800 downstairs, and it ended up selling as a 1,600 square foot house. I had a lot of people ask me about that at the time, and I was like, look, it's really only an 800 square foot house because everything downstairs is non-compliant.
Right.
And knowing how to look for that is really important because the buyer ended up ultimately buying that house and paying for a 1,600 square foot house.
They really only got 800 square feet.
Really only got 800 square feet. So when the county comes and knocks on the door, that's going to be a sticky situation.
For sure. And the realtor didn't know and the appraiser didn't know. I mean, it flew through. So yeah.
It doesn't stop them from getting sued.
No, it doesn't.
But, you know, why do you want to put your clients through that? So, you know, we put ourselves in our clients' shoes. What would I want to know if I was buying this house? And so knowing who to talk to, whether it's the county, the city, the correct municipality that's in control, and finding out, you know, reading an elevation certificate. What does it look like? How do you read it? How do you know if it's non-compliant or not?
And we've lost listings because we go in there and tell we're sitting down with the seller talking about their home and telling them what their square footage actually is. And they don't go with us because they want the inflated square footage number.
Yeah.
And then it ends up down the road either not selling or could possibly, if it does sell, turn into a lawsuit.
Yeah, there's been several properties that have turned into lawsuits. We have not been a party of any of those.
Right.
Because we put our clients in our shoes.
Yeah, right.
But contractor recommendations and connections would be the next one. One of the things that our clients don't realize they get out of us, but end up getting it during the process, during negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at a property, you're like, man, I'm gonna have to. We were looking at a house the other day on Travis, didn't have a boat slip, and it's pretty steep, so they're gonna need a tram. But guess what? We've got people on our vendor list that specialize in that. So it wasn't anything to worry about. It's like, oh, we need to add that. Here's a list. Call these guys.
Yeah.
You know, we overcame that objection so quickly.
Well, and also too is most other buyers are going to be, and buyers agents won't know where to turn them to.
Totally.
And so their clients will just pass on it. And you know, you can get that property way under market value if it's missing those key features. When you own a lake house, you have to have access to the water.
I think you would.
That's a pretty key feature. So, you know, we can connect those dots and actually really make it a great investment for these clients. Our contractor list always changes because one year a contractor's good and the next year they're not, or they're out of the business, or, you know, so we definitely keep it up to date. And so we ask our clients, hey, give us a call every 6 months or a year whenever you're looking to do something to get the latest and greatest. And one benefit of using us is those contractors want to be on our list. So if our clients are referred to them and they so happen to not call them back, which does happen every once in a while, or are not finishing the job properly or timely, I would say. They always typically do it properly. But we give them a call and they typically get into shape real quick because they want to stay on our list.
Absolutely.
And I know you do this, but I actually check with the seller or the buyer or whoever to see how they did, how they performed. Did they do it in budget, and did they do it on time like they told you and promised you? And so we're constantly, that's a live, you know, document that we're changing all the time with when we get bad recommendations or referrals from.
Follow up and follow back and follow through.
For sure.
Exactly.
You know,
I like it. Frank, what else do you have?
Contract negotiations from a seller's perspective of, you know, using a Lakefront Specialist, a Waterfront Specialist is very important because I have to educate buyer's agents all the time, and it's okay because I spin it that it's a benefit to my seller. So I'm not lying to them, I'm not covering anything up, but I am spinning it in a positive way that benefits my sellers. But knowing these lakes, knowing the rivers, 17 lakes and rivers we service, we know these lakes and these waters very well, and you know, it's very important that you have somebody on your side that understands, you know, the depth, the clarity. You know, this lake we're on right now, Lake Dunlap, you get up, you know, towards the I-35 bridge, water's a lot more clear than it is down here. And is there more traffic down here or up there? So, you know, in shallow, deep, you know, surfing. I mean, you need deep water for surfing. Can't do that up there. And if you want to live up there, you know, you need to know that. So anyway, just knowing the lakes and rivers.
One thing, it reminded me, how many times do you hear this from a buyer's agent? Like when I was actually on the listing side, they would always tell me, I love selling your listings. Why? Because I don't have to do anything. You have everything all prepared, and if I have a question, I just ask you and I just relay it to my buyer. So the buyer's agents really push to sell our listings because they have to do less work and can be less knowledgeable.
Right.
And so
we like to be proactive and do everything all that we can do in advance of the property even hitting the market. I mean, we even opened title on a property before, get the survey looked at to see if it's going to be approved or not, if we're going to have that hiccup down the road. So we do a lot of things in advance before it even hits the market to make sure that it's a smooth transaction. And if say their bulkhead is, you know, collapsing or there's issues with it, you know, we get a contractor out there, one of our contractors out there in advance to tell us how much it's going to cost to repair it. If the seller can't fix it, we'll at least know how much it's going to when we get that question.
Yeah, how to negotiate that.
For sure.
It's being proactive rather than reactive. Yep. But that's from the seller side. How would you say being a waterfront specialist helps you negotiate?
I mean, again, kind of what we went back to a while ago is like knowing what actually is a lake and sometimes what is a river. You know, knowing where that product is, you know, where that property is, because there's so many that are labeled incorrectly.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's knowing like, no, that's actually on a lake. You actually get better. You could actually go boat there. It's not just a little tiny river.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it just helps us, and it helps my clients know that we've got their best interest at heart. and we're going to get the most value out of this.
It's the 90-10 rule. 10% of the agents, waterfront agents, sell 90% of the market. And so we typically, on the buyer side, end up with a listing agent who doesn't know what they're doing, didn't know how to evaluate the property, and doesn't have access to the off-market sales that we do, which at times we can provide to that listing agent to help get a better price for our buyers, right? So it's really, really important to have all the cards. The more information you have, the easier it is to win in negotiations. And we have all the cards in the deck.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Exactly. If you're looking to buy or sell waterfront property in Central Texas, look no further than the Lakefront Group. Seriously, look us up. Anybody on our team, we have nothing but 5-star reviews all over the internet. Multiple different platforms. So seriously, if you're interested in buying or selling, look no further than the Lakefront Group. See you on the lake.